the arts, in any form, visual, performing, there's always going to be something that comes to a level of controversy. I think that's part of what the arts facilitate.
This is Faith Complex, a dialogue about the entanglement of religion, politics, and art.
Hello, I'm Alexa West, and welcome to Faith Complex. Today we're here with Geoffrey Aldridge. Mr. Aldridge is a DC-based artist who graduated from American University in 2008 with a master's degree in fine arts. He currently works in DC, but his works have been shown around America, including in Austin, Texas, and New York City. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me, Alexa.
In your video piece entitled Drag, you struggle with fur-covered cinder blocks in an attempt to wear them as a boa around your neck. Now, you've commented that this is representational of the struggle of the gay community. What are they struggling for?
That piece in particular was more about expectations, sort of trying to be, and taking this material, a cinder block, and sort of decorating it itself, and then adorning myself with this weight of something to be expected, to go out, to participate, to be adorned, to be looked at. For me, the fur was sort of a personal sort of way to comment about our own skin, I guess, and using and appropriating a different material to something that we accessorize ourselves with, if you think of boas or furs. And so for me, it was a way to take something and put a skin onto its own other object, such as the cinder block.
Now, in December of last year, you helped create a protest mask to bring attention to a piece of art that was censored from the National Portrait Gallery by David Wojnarowicz. Now, what did you mean to convey with this mask?
It was a very quick sort of response. I think that we just wanted to have a visual, another representation, and specifically for the artist, because the artist is deceased. So it was actually a collaborative project between myself and two other artists, and we wanted something that represented him visually. And we chose that image because it's an image of his own face from a still, and it just made sense. We wanted him to be present. It was as if he was going to have his own voice in some way.
And what would you say you learned personally from this whole Wojnarowicz controversy?
I think that I learned that, you know, the arts, in any form, visual, performing, there's always going to be something that comes to a level of controversy. I think that's part of what the arts facilitate for us.
A reaction.
A reaction.
And I think things that are controversial usually are controversial because they were so gut-wrenching.
Exactly. So there's always that, you know, that push and pull between what we're going through as a society, politically, socially, and how artists respond to all of those things.
Now, when I look at your art, I see parallels between your work and the work of artists like Robert Mapplethorpe and David LaChapelle. Are they some of your influences? And tell me about your artistic influences.
Robert Mapplethorpe, yes. Going through graduate school, I became very much more aware of process and what that means for me. And so some of the artists that I have been looking at and really have been inspired through are Joseph Beuys and Felix Gonzalez-Torres, Morandi, an Italian painter, and Kara Walker has been influential.
Now, with your video art, as opposed to your object art or any other kind of art, you don't use materials, but you use the world around you. So what do you say you gain, and what do you say you lose by using planet Earth as your medium?
It's interesting because before I started working in video and making objects, I was a painter. And so I very much approach even making sculptures and videos as a painter. I am aware of that viewfinder, I'm aware of that screen, just like I would be aware of the size of the canvas. So I think for me, I don't visually leave those boundaries, but maybe I should.
I found your piece Brick to be a Walt Whitman-esque representation of the myriad of faces in New York and greater America. And we all walk in different shoes, but only some shoes walk around in yellow bricks. What did you mean to convey by this piece? And do you think your original message is conveyed well?
That piece was interesting because it was actually the end of a week-long performance in New York where I set up a studio, and it was really an act of futility of sort of how a campaign could run for a governor or senator, even a presidential campaign, of starting this campaign, going through the process, trying to win voters over, and then the end results, you win or you lose. And so I was sort of thinking about, current gay legislation, gay marriage, or don't ask, don't tell. And so for me, it was, what would it look like if every day, every hour I was just reacting and planning based on what preceded that. So that piece was very much something that was aligned with the Gay Pride Parade in New York City. And I didn't know what it was going to look like 5 days before that day. So for me to see these brick shoes, these strap-on shoes out in the streets of New York was exciting.
How closely is your art related to your identity? Do you find sometimes when critics talk about your work that it offends you personally?
My work is very closely related to my identity. My art-making process and the experiences within my own life do inform one another. I really don't become offended from, any sort of negative criticism. I think it actually helps inform me. It's a continuation of the dialogue. You're always going to have negative or positive. But also, there's at some point where I don't feel very personal about the work anymore. I sort of let it go because I sort of look at it as something larger than myself. So I think that distance in the end also helps negate any sort of personal feelings towards negative criticism.
So you'd say a piece is a part of yourself until you finish and you let it go.
Right. I want it to go. I want it to live somewhere else. I want it to be a part of, our society, our world. It's larger than myself. I think these ideas and concepts are larger than myself. I may use myself in these performance modes or tie in some of my own personal histories or experiences with larger cultural concepts. But in the end, I think what holds it together is, our experiences as individuals and groups may be different, but our emotions and our feelings are the same. Yeah, these foundations. We all experience anger, sadness, happy, joy. But our experiences may be different.
Would you consider being a young artist in the digital era an artistic asset? And what opportunities are open for you by living in this era?
I think definitely. And a lot of the work that's video and video performance, there's an immediacy there. And there's definitely current trends in technology that facilitate that, everything from Facebook to Twitter. But for me, I think dealing and talking about these ideas and complexities of sexuality and gender, a lot of my generation, our generation, what we see, we learn about those social constructions through television, through cinema, through film. So yeah, I think it's very pertinent. And I feel very fortunate to have this time where it's so accessible.
Well, I know I'd love to follow you on Twitter.
Oh, well, thanks.
Thank you so much for coming, Mr. Aldridge. Thanks for coming to Faith Complex.
Thank you very much.